Whoa! We're here. What are we doing here?
We're doing TV shows. We're doing comedy TV shows.
Yeah.
I said TV.
Tiffy.
TV. We're doing comedy TV shows.
Yes.
TV is not anything.
That's what Indians build.
TVs.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are, what, in the second round?
Yes.
Second
We're talking
round.
about some second round matchups and figuring out our comedy shows that are moving on to the Sweet 16. There's only going to be 8 of them because the other half of our bracket, the other half of our Sweet 16 is the drama side.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 shows in the Sweet 16 will be dramas, 8 will be comedies. Here we're going to tell you which comedies are going to be those 8.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking a little bit, comedy is such a subjective thing, so what's funny to you might not be as funny to me. I might like that Family Guy, very slapstick style humor. You might like Frasier.
Yeah.
You never know. You might, but we don't decide who moves on. We would like to, because some of these results are a little questionable. But we put them all up to vote on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and here on YouTube, and we let all the people who follow us and interact with us vote and decide. So, it's not our say who moves on.
It's not. We were just as involved as you. We get 1 vote, probably. I usually forget to vote and don't do it.
Yeah. But we do take all the input from as many people that want to give us input when it comes to building these brackets. And we seed the brackets. So sometimes we seed pretty well.
Let's get to a really offensive gesture there.
Oh.
Thinking about seeding things.
Yeah. We just spread our seed all over the place.
This is just watering. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I thought you were talking about...
I was.
Yeah. Okay. But speaking of, pushing the envelope, controversial takes, our first matchup in the second round comedy region was Seinfeld, who we had as number 1 seed.
We did.
I can't remember if I drafted that or if
I did. No, it was
you
me.
drafted that. Yeah. Seinfeld was number 1, and it went up against the 8 seed Parks and Rec, which has a huge following. People love Parks and Rec. I've seen a few episodes. Enjoyable show. Haven't seen it all the way through.
Who do you think is the most, if you had to pick popular character or meme character? Because I think there's one for me that, like, even though he's not the focus, I think it's one character that I think Parks and Rec could be a comedy that appeals more to a female fan base.
Fair.
At times. But I think this one character sold it for a lot of, like, older males, dads, guys like that.
Yeah.
Guys that would have liked Home Improvement, Tim Allen stuff. And it's Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah, Ron Swanson.
It's Ron Swanson character, I think, is like the wild card for this show. If they didn't have Ron Swanson, I think it would, like, a big demographic would have not tuned in. And I think it would be like this kind of dad male, middle-aged male demographic. They'd be like, nah, not for me. But they love this guy.
Yeah, fair. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going with. The one character that comes to mind from Parks and Rec is definitely Ron Swanson. He's memeable beyond all memeable shows, probably, and fantastic actor. It'll take me a second to remember the name of it. That is embarrassing.
I bet it's Eric something.
Eric or Dan.
But there are some other, while you're looking that up, there's other characters, like Aubrey Plaza's character really taps into, like, that, it's sort of like all indie comedy, or just like that super dry, right?
Yeah.
Chris Pratt really got his start here in this show.
Nick Offerman.
Come
Offerman.
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh, what are we doing?
I don't want to say it on the tip of my tongue, but it's one of those you see it and you're like, what happens to the brain?
Yeah.
And you ever notice that when you try to, like, remember stuff, it won't come to you when you're trying, but then, like, you stop trying and then it's like, there, it's right there.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Frontal lobe. Pre-cortex.
Oh, all the lobes.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. Aziz.
Aziz Ansari, yeah.
Aziz, hilarious. Adam Scott, one of the best film scenes in film. One of my favorite film scenes, and it's not from Parks and Rec, from Step Brothers. Singing in the car. So funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of great cast for that.
Definitely.
And which is not to say that Seinfeld didn't equally have a great cast. Because we're talking Jerry Seinfeld, George. No, that's the name of the character. No, but that's the name of
He
him
was,
in
yeah,
real
Jerry
life.
was Jerry.
George Costanza.
Yeah.
Is his real name, right?
George Costanza is the name of the character.
What's that actor's name? 'Cause Elaine is different. That's Julia Louis
yeah,
Dreyfus.
Louis Dreyfus. Kramer was
Not.
Michael Richards.
Yes.
George, that's another one. Why?
I feel like his name
it-
really is George in real life.
No, it's not George.
He's like, no, you're making...
It's not George Costanza.
It has to be.
Because he was in Shallow Hal, too.
Okay.
And it's definitely not George.
This is so...
Jason
Alexander.
Alexander.
That's so close, though.
Yeah.
That name is... Yeah, I knew Jason Alexander.
George. I have no idea, Jerry. It's, I don't know.
You sound like a little like Joe Pesci.
Oh, yeah. Same thing. Both like small New York. Hey, nothing's going
Yeah.
my way.
And then they had a lot of just like guest cameos
Yeah.
as well throughout their seasons.
For sure. And the character of George is actually based off Larry David, who was involved in the show.
Yeah.
Him and Jerry were like co-producers of the show. And then once Larry David left, in my opinion, you can see a serious drop-off in the quality of the show. I don't know what it was. They think the execs who aren't actually funny got too much of the hands. You see that a lot with comedies. Like
Yeah.
when the executives who aren't funny, but they think they know what's going to be good for TV and to, make more money, they just screw it up.
Yeah, they pick what their grandma told them was their favorite thing, and it's
Right.
like, and they go like, "We need more of this. My grandma loved it," and like,
Yeah.
that's the demographic we need. And sometimes like, you shouldn't shoot for demographics. And despite saying like Parks and Recs had characters that were able to appeal to different like comedy styles and things like that, I don't think it was intentional.
Right.
I think they're just like, here's a character like this. Here's a character like this is what you would see in a place, like these like different personalities.
Yeah.
Whereas I do think like Seinfeld's comedy is like more like all kind of this same consistent comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't go off too separately. It's all just like very clever, most of the time observational, very very New Yorkish comedy.
Yeah, for sure. And what's funny is I would often get in debates with some of my friends in high school. It was always that Friends versus Seinfeld debate. I was Friends through and through growing up, but now into my 30s, I'm looking back, and I don't know if it's because Seinfeld humor aged a lot better or if I'm just at an age where it speaks to me more. But I'm like, Seinfeld, hands down. So I still think, some things in Friends are funny, but to me, the humor in Seinfeld aged way better.
Yeah, I can
So-
see that.
But when the votes came in
Yeah.
between Seinfeld and Parks and Rec, Seinfeld lost.
Yeah.
Our first number one seed to go down.
Yeah.
Seinfeld lost, and it was pretty big. I think this was a case of Twitter handle, Parks and Rec Twitter retweeting it, and Seinfeld. I think Seinfeld won in the others, but Parks and Rec blew it out of the water on Twitter.
Wow.
So Parks and Rec, Sweet 16. Our
How
first
about
comedy
that?
to enter the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I know in our drama video when we were going over upsets, there was one that happened that I said was the biggest upset, and it was, the Twilight Zone over the wire. If that one comes out after this one, you've been spoiled for that. But that was like a 7 and a 2, which is the equivalent of a 1 versus 8, but in theory, a slightly bigger upset. Which one do you think is the bigger upset? Because in looking at this one, like a 1 seed like Seinfeld, that is widely regarded as arguably the best comedy of all time.
Yeah, it's a pretty close comparison because you could say Seinfeld in terms of popularity is the more popular show. It's on no matter what time of day you turn on, it's on TV. Everyone knows
The
about
Seinfeld, there's a streaming network just called Seinfeld.
it. Yeah, it's just every episode.
That's
of
the
Seinfeld,
last one.
Every episode of Curb, every Jerry Seinfeld stand up, every Michael Richards stand up, which they're all fantastic.
They're all censored now.
Yeah. But yeah, they're really, really close. I think you're right though. I think Twilight Zone beating The Wire is a little bit more surprising.
And I think it's because of Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we knew what to expect for that show. Well, it's like Parks and Rec, funny show. Seinfeld, funny show. Are we having younger people vote who go like, Seinfeld's not for me?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But so Parks and Rec. Moving
Parks
on.
and Rec in the Sweet 16. Congratulations to Parks and Rec. Great show.
So we won't get any of those like Seinfeld matchups that maybe we were hoping to have. Seinfeld versus The Office or Seinfeld versus like a South Park or Simpsons, and we won't be able to see him. Seinfeld versus Curb, if that happened, could have happened.
Seinfeld Curb, Seinfeld Friends.
You don't get to see any of them.
Yeah.
Seinfeld couldn't handle Parks and Rec.
Seinfeld versus Fresh Prince. No. Seinfeld versus Everybody Loves Raymond. No, because that was their next matchup. Everybody Loves Raymond versus Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Pretty close in the seating. This is our 4 and 5 matchup. I grew up at a younger age on Fresh Prince. I feel like Fresh Prince was early 90s.
Yeah.
Everybody Loves Raymond's late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I love both, but for different reasons. Will Smith, his first crack at acting, he knocked it out of the park, I think. He's just one of those few people, like a Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx started doing, stand-up and Living Color. Turns out he's even better as an actor, even better as a musician, arguably. Will Smith started as a rapper, and he comes on and do TV. It's like, oh, how is this kid gonna do? Awesome. He's one of those people that I'm very, very jealous of, like The Rock.
Natural charisma. You just, when you watch him, you can't take your eyes off him. You keep watching. You're like, I like everything he does.
Right. Perfect as a lead. But now, in my 30s, being a dad, Everybody Loves Raymond, like the little quirks and nuances about that show. Super funny. But
gotcha.
Any thoughts on this?
I regret it. I wanted Fresh Prince to win.
Nah.
I thought it would win. Part of me for the longest time after we did our draft regretted picking Everybody Loves Raymond so high. I felt it was a popular show, but I think it was it wasn't even anything that I had any facts on. Just that I felt like I remembered hearing about it a lot 15 years ago, which doesn't mean that 15 years later people are still like, this is quality. So I was like, oh Jesus, if there's one pick I would have probably redone, it would have been Raymond might have still made it, but I would have put something higher here.
Yeah.
So I would have gone Fresh Prince as well.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody Loves Raymond. It's, I don't know. It's kind of in that same realm as a King of Queens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those kind of shows, like King of Queens, My Name is Earl.
This was like a Roseanne.
Yeah.
It's like a family in their home, and just how a non-traditional family unit, like a Full House. It's not just the parents and 2 kids. It's like a parent and a uncle and a grandma, and now somebody moves in, and there's all these weird dynamics.
Yeah, but Fresh Prince
moving
on. Yeah,
Oh.
Fresh Prince beat it pretty thoroughly. So we're gonna get Parks and Rec and Fresh Prince. Sweet 16.
Yeah. All right. So in the bottom half of this comedy region, our next matchup was against Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Ooh.
Great observational comedy again, and really great pushing the envelope comedy.
Yeah.
Going up against Friends.
Yeah.
One of the most generally popular and liked comedy sitcoms.
Yeah.
Has its fair share of haters, because anything that's that popular, people are like, if you don't like it, then you have to hate it more, because you kind of got to balance the scales.
Yeah.
you can there are shows on here like New Girl, that probably the same number of people maybe don't like. But people aren't it's not on the cover of every magazine. It's not considered the funniest show of all time. And people aren't coming up to you being like, oh, but have you seen, you gotta watch Friends. So nobody's gonna be so vocally against a show like New Girl, or a show like Everybody Loves Raymond and things like that. So Friends definitely you'll also hear a lot of really negative opinions about it, but I still think it's massively popular.
Yeah, it is. And there's a weird thing happening right now with Friends where it's being deemed offensive, a lot of offensive jokes to certain communities. And I'm noticing a pattern, because it wasn't intentionally pushing the envelope. It was very by the book, very cookie cutter, very never trying to be offensive.
Yeah.
But then it's the shows like a Curb where they just go at the issue head on, pushing the envelope. South Park, Family Guy, they purposefully will double down on their offensiveness, but you don't hear them talked about. It's almost like if you're a show that holds back and you just lightly touch on topics, like that's so offensive because you have this reputation of being like this kind of like generic unoffensive show, but shows like South Park that I mean we can get to South Park a little bit. I can talk about South Park for days. It's almost like you gotta pick a side. You have to be like on the side where like if you're not going for groundbreaking, pushing the envelope, irreverent at all, you gotta like
better stay squeaky clean.
You gotta stay squeaky clean. But if you're not, like you're free to go after any controversial issues with all you got. Like a Daniel Tosh.
Yeah.
He'll be as offensive as humanly possible. But you don't hear anything like, oh, he's so offensive.
Yeah.
Like, you only hear about things that like aren't supposed to be offensive. Is that a thing?
I think that's 100% a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know for sure why. My theory is that I think people like to target at the perceived hypocrisy. Like, and I'm not saying that Friends writers or anybody that produced on Friends held themselves out as like, we're going to do clean comedy. We don't want to offend anybody. Because I don't think... If you work in comedy, you are probably constantly being like, is this going to offend or is it not? Well, if it is, can we tweak it so that it's actually funny and not just like regurgitating like a lazy stereotype joke or something like that? But I think you're right, though, because I think shows that, again, are perceived as holding themselves out as like, we're not, we're just like fun comedy, sit and, space out, get home and just put on some episodes, do something else. Like, I think when people see that, it stands out more.
Yeah.
A show like Curb, like you said, or South Park, like, it's just one of 12, rapid fire insensitive, offensive jokes.
Yeah.
But on Friends, it's like, the whole show is kind of like, quaint and nice, and then that one joke that just like didn't age well jumps out and you go, let me get on my social media. Did you guys remember this scene? And it's like, get a fucking life.
Yeah, it was so insensitive because because Friends had Ross's ex who was married to another. It was a lesbian couple.
Yeah,
and I guess there was an episode where like, I think it was Ross they were encouraging his son to play with like dolls, and Ross like kind of was like trying to be like, no, rather than this doll, let's play with this G.I. Joe. And people were like, how dare he try to force it. It's just like, A, it's a show, and B, like it's very logical reaction of a person to even like be tempted to toy that idea. And just like, and it plays out how it plays out. I think the kid ends up liking playing with dolls, and it's like cool. But like,
yes,
and it's just like, gosh, you really have to be looking for things to be offended of to be slightly offended by that.
Yeah, this is a weird thing for me, and I think it happens in drama even. And I'll bring up the example in drama that like when I've heard people talk about it, it frustrates me so much because in the way that Friends did that, and maybe Ross. Maybe you would disagree with Ross and be like, and maybe the general feeling is like a parent really shouldn't guide their kid, like let them kind of choose what they like. But this was in the 90s and something that was brought up and discussed. And like you said, the kid probably ended up going with dolls. Right. It raised the issue, even though it wasn't trying to make an issue of it, but just realized like, hey, there can be humor in like, is it that bad to like have your kid play with dolls? We should kind of have a character be like so worried about it and poke fun at that character. He's probably the butt of the joke.
Yes, exactly. He was the butt of the joke, and it's a character playing into this scenario. Like,
what do you want to not like? Or shows can never bring these things up, but that's not the real world. Where it happens in drama is like scenes depicting like either pretty like tough violence or especially like sexual violence, and people will be like, I just can't watch that show. I'm so disappointed in that show for like portraying and depicting that. And it's like that is the real world. And God forbid you learn about that happening to real people, then see it in fiction and understand how it affects people and things like that. Like if we can't put these things in fiction to understand it, then you have to confront it in an even worse spot. And this is how you get people aware of like what's really going on. When we talk about Chappelle's show, we probably grew up in like pretty homogenous neighborhoods and didn't see a lot of people all that different from us all that much. So a lot of like comedy from Chappelle's Show kind of like made me aware of like how humor was used to deal with the serious topics of race. And I could have just lived my life just watching shows that didn't touch on it, but that'd be a disservice to like understanding the world. Like these things should be in shows. If you're uncomfortable with it, you don't have to watch it, but you shouldn't try and remove it from shows because it is educating people and putting these things out there to understand. I feel strongly on that.
Yeah.
As well. But Curb versus Friends, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Rate the Friends characters.
Oh, that's yeah, absolutely.
Like, who is your favorite down the line?
Chandler.
Chandler number one?
Chandler number one.
Nice.
There's a
You don't have to do all of them, but
no,
if you got into your number one, there you go.
Chandler number one. There's a long time where Ross was my number one.
Yeah.
It's funny because Ross, I feel like, is pretty polarizing.
I want Ross. I'm gonna pick Ross as my number one just because he's polarizing.
Yes. A lot of people have him as last. I'm gonna put Phoebe as my last.
Me too.
Sorry, Phoebes.
It's just a little bit too.
I will specify.
humor.
I'll specify that I think she had my least favorite character traits. It wasn't the whole series. It was only for a few seasons. I feel like they didn't really know what to do with her. There's just the writers were like, okay, what can Phoebe say here that's weird? Yeah. My mom stuck her head in the oven. Okay, and then they would just be talking about something. She'd be like, oh yeah, I like that until my mom stuck her head in the oven. Darn. And then just like, give her more. I think she got better as when she developed that relationship with Paul Rudd. She got a little. They kind of figured more out who is Phoebe, but so Phoebe last.
Does that mean Ross at 2?
Ross at 2, Joey at 3. I'm putting my dudes first.
Put the dudes
whatever.
first.
Say what you. I don't fucking care. And then Monica.
Monica top chick.
She's the top chick. Rachel. She's cool. I got nothing bad to say about Rachel. Fun fact about Rachel. You'll notice like a behind the scenes thing. You'll notice that like a lot of times when she's entering a scene, she's looking down, like she's like fixing her shirt. The real reason is that she had such trouble hitting her mark.
I was just looking for that.
She was looking for the mark, but she made it part of her character to like look down. So it's like a funny behind the scenes thing.
Oh wow!
I think I did a tour of Warner Brothers, and the Friends set is on the Warner Brothers set in Burbank, and I just thought that was a fun fact. Sweet. What about your?
Actually, I would put Joey as my number one. I really like Joey. Yeah, I'd put Joey 1. I'll put Ross as 2 for his polarization. It's kind of like the Nick Cage of TV shows. It's like, is he just the worst actor you've ever seen? Like, what's up with him? I'll go, and now I completely forgot her name. Not Rachel. Monica. Yeah. I'll go Monica 3, Chandler.
Okay.
Just so I don't have 3 dudes in the top. And then Rachel and then Phoebe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But Curb and Friends. Well, who would you have wanted to win this one?
I think Curb is the superior show. Yeah. But I've seen all of Friends. I haven't seen all of Curb.
Curb has surprisingly a lot more seasons than you'd expect.
It does.
It's like on 10 or 11 seasons now. It's minimum.
It's wild. So I'm gonna go Friends just because it was like a big part of like my development, like all of high school. Like I really did love Friends. But ask me again once I've watched all of Curb, and I'd probably say Curb. But...
Yeah, I think Friends is a more likable show.
Okay.
I think it's a show that, on any given day or time, I'd probably choose to watch a little bit more than Curb. But I think Curb is a better comedy. Mm-hmm. But I guess we're picking better TV show. These are just comedies against each other. Curb would get better comedy from me, but Friends might be the better show because it's kind of a feel-good show when you watch it.
Yeah. I'm picking Friends in the way that I would pick Chameleonaire over like
Paul
Nas. Like Chameleon over Nas. Like I've listened to a lot more Chameleonaire. So like personal. I have a lot more memories of it. But I know Curb is better. Mm-hmm. I know Nas is the better rapper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you have your favorites versus best.
Oh, yeah.
Two favorite best. That's kind of what we get into a lot with these brackets.
No doubt. Well, the winner moving on, though, to the Sweet 16, getting its second win. Friends did pull it off over Curb, so not enough haters and people trying to bury the show out there to stop it yet. But it'll go up in the Sweet 16 against the winner between one of my all-time favorite animated shows, animated comedies, Futurama, but going up against the juggernaut that is The Office. And what can you say? Both shows are really good. I love Futurama for its mixing of comedy with sci-fi concepts and doing comedy with like a lot of clever and smart things. It's not that often laugh out loud funny. It famously has quite a few, for people that have watched the show, like tearjerker episodes. Like, it's not often a show makes you cry, but it's also not often, maybe doubly, that an animated show makes you cry. But there are a good 3 to 4 episodes that people cite as like, these are you cry at these episodes. Dang. That like it did dramatic things and like really big moments really well, and I love the show for it. I would pick it as a better TV show because I think it nailed a lot of stuff. But The Office is really good. This is gonna be a personal one, kind of just like yours was. But I would pick Futurama. But I'm fine with either winning. I know Futurama was not long for this bracket.
yeah, and spoiler alert: The Office did win. That would also be my choice, but only because I haven't seen much Futurama. Maybe just a couple of episodes here and there. I've watched The Office all the way through a couple of times, and
nice.
What can I say?
Yeah,
not much more to add. But
Office Friends.
Yeah, that's a wild Sweet 16 matchup.
Yeah,
I would say 5 to 7 years ago. 5 to 7 years ago, Friends would be who I would think would win. But I think The Office has kind of overtaken Friends almost in popularity.
I think so.
Like Friends had that going for it where it was like Seinfeld's always on TV. So whatever you're doing. But The Office now is the same. It's always on. I feel like no matter what channel, TBS, Comedy Central, whatever, it's always on TV. So
yeah. And then you remembered Ross took a doll from his son and gave it to G.I. Joe, and it just spelled the end for Friends for you.
Right. And no one cites The Office for being offensive ever, for whatever reason. But Michael Scott said the worst shit ever, and it's pick and choose what you want to be offended by. But
yeah,
if you're gonna be offended by Friends, you got to be offended by pretty much every show on this list.
All right, we're halfway through finding our 8 comedies going on to the Sweet 16, and here we are in the South Park region. Will we see another 1 seed? Maybe our 1 seeds in comedy weren't as protected as we thought, because Seinfeld lost to Parks and Rec, and South Park went up against a very different show, but a wildly, like, especially for our age group and age range, Boy Meets World, which is just like, I don't know, it had to be one of my most watched shows growing up.
Really?
Yeah, because it was on, again, all the time. And then once, like, Disney Channel was, like, a cable channel that you started getting, they always ran episodes of Boy Meets World. I feel like I would come home from school and, like, watch, and, like, they'd have Boy Meets World for a half hour and then another show or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but most people in our age group watched it all, loved it. For whatever reason, it skipped past me. Like, I never really watched it. Well, I feel like while most people were watching Boy Meets World, I was on like The Fresh Prince, Home Improvement, Simpsons train. Like that's what I was consuming. So don't have much to say about Boy Meets World, but South Park's my favorite show of all time. And if South Park doesn't make it in the Sweet 16, like Seinfeld, I'm okay with. But if South Park doesn't, sorry, I spit everywhere.
It wasn't on me.
I'm going to have a meltdown.
You're going to get up and leave.
I'm going to use
we will not finish this bracket.
We all get one. Me and Matt both get one.
Veto.
We get a veto card. Thank you. Couldn't think of the word.
Jimmy John's veto.
Yes. So South Park. And we're going to be doing a series of top 5 videos. We talk TV shows here. We do this long form style where we reveal the winners of a bunch of matchups. But we want to really dig deep into some of these shows because while we haven't seen, together we've seen pretty much every show. But individually, like, I haven't seen all. Like I haven't seen Boy Meets World. But, a lot of these shows I've been obsessed with for a really, really long time. So we're going to be doing like top 5 videos separately. So like top 5. Can't wait to do a top 5 South Park episode.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be really, really tough.
Yeah, for sure.
So many South Park episodes. legendary.
Yeah.
But South Park would be my choice all day.
I would pick South Park. This is a lot for me, like Friends versus Curb.
Okay.
Curb and South Park are better comedies, 100%. Debatably better TV shows. But Boy Meets World does just make you feel good when you watch it. And maybe it's because of that nostalgia. It was a show where it ran so long and they didn't recast. The characters were like 12 when it started and they were like 20 in it. And it just felt real. It's still real to me, you know? The characters were great. It's a fantastic show. It's a bummer it had to go up against such a iconic comedy. I would go South Park too, but it's close for me. Boy Meets World I would take over a lot of the other shows here. There's maybe only one other show in this half of the bracket that we'll get to that was matched up against I wouldn't have picked. I would have picked Always Sunny over Boy Meets World, but I might have taken Boy Meets World over everything else here as we talk about it.
That's a statement.
And South Park did win.
It did win.
So meltdown averted. Chris is safe for now. The bracket is safe, and so is your veto.
Yes. I'll save the veto for the finals.
Nice.
But we can only use them in the first 2 rounds, right? We haven't really made the rules.
It's not really a rule.
We haven't used the veto yet. So
No.
we can use it whenever. I might use it in the
It would be great.
depending on who wins.
Because at that point, who cares? We know people will know the sort of true winner, and we'll have the official 6 wins winner because Chris did it, and then it's like 2 winners.
I love that.
It's like creating a new world title.
Yeah.
For your show, when another guy has 2 world titles already anyway.
And you just let him be a part-timer.
Yeah.
But I won't. So the next matchup, really interesting. So Saturday Night Live, the 35-year running show, it's, been the beginning stages of a lot of comedic film stars' careers.
So many, yeah.
And the list. I like the idea of doing a best SNL cast member bracket one day. I think that would be a lot of fun. Or just best SNL sketches.
Recurring sketch or single one-off sketch.
Yeah, we can do a lot. We'll do a lot with Saturday Night Live. But it did actually beat Key and Peele and Chappelle's Show in the first round.
A triple threat sketch off.
Yeah, when we did the triple threat sketch off, when we first were making this bracket, I was thinking Chappelle's Show was going to go deep. Real deep. Because it's just become such a staple in culture. But it lost in the first round to Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Looking back, I should have known because Saturday Night Live has just been, even though people don't really ever like the current years, Saturday Night Live is always one of those shows where you look back and like, the 80s cast was the best, the 90s cast, early 2000s. But now it's kind of become a little more political and say what you will. But a lot to talk about there for SNL just as a individual show.
Mm-hmm.
I digress. It went up against Cheers.
Yeah.
So
I saw I was going to check out a grocery store recently. And I saw those those magazines, those tablets, as you get to the front. Because I don't do I typically have too many groceries for self checkout. I'm like, come on. If I've got like more than 15, I don't want to be the one scanning these. Like, come on. And plus, I hate the self checkouts anyway. I would, unless I've got like 5 things, I just don't want to do it. But the person can do it. Plus, then you can grab a Reese's peanut butter cup or a Reese's Take 5, which are top candy bars of all time.
We'll do a top candy bars.
You don't need to. Those are the one and number 2.
Okay.
Just kidding.
We can do a fruity side and a chocolate side.
Oh, chocolate side all day.
Yeah.
There was like a magazine that was like a Cheers retrospective, and it was like, Cheers, like this legend, classic show. I was like, nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got Cheers on there. I didn't know Woody Harrelson was in Cheers because I've seen very little. Again, it was a show that aired on Nick at Night when I was growing up, and it would come on and I'd go, okay, this isn't Brady Bunch. There was a show I watched on Nick at Night, it was Brady Bunch, and as soon as it got to any of those, like, meh. But Cheers is a really classic comedy that for a lot of people is one of the best. Jesus, Ted Danson. Kelsey Grammer. Yeah, I mean, this was a very important, comedy show. But because of SNL, it's kind of because of its wide net and what you associate with it. Sketches that could have happened 30 years ago or just last week. Comedy actors that went on to do movies that you love or just make you laugh and other things. it kind of gets a little bit of an unfair advantage. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
It got put on here.
Right. And
It can also get dinged for being like, I hate those comedians, or like, I hate when they do this and stuff like that. So you
True.
get the good and the bad.
True.
But it casts such a wide net that even though I don't always love SNL and don't always think it's like the greatest sketch show, period, I would probably take it to move on.
Right. Like if you're a pro wrestling fan, just thinking of Monday Night Raw as a show, it's like, well, I didn't like wrestling in the late 2000s, but it had some of the best moments in the Attitude Era, like SNL. And spoiler alert, Saturday Night Live did beat Cheers, which was a little
I
surprising
don't know
to
how
me.
people feel about that, yeah.
But after it did, I was like, was it unfair to put Saturday Night Live on here? Because it seems like all the other shows on here are limited to like a certain cast. And Saturday Night Live was Eddie Murphy, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Farley, Sandler, Bill Hader, Will Ferrell, Kristen Wiig, Amy. Like you could go on and on and on.
Yeah,
100.
It's like an all-star team of your best comedians
I know.
in one show, going up against shows that just had to pick the comedians that they could afford at the time, or the up and comers. It's like, hey, it's when you were playing the baseball games on video games when you're growing up, and you're like, I'm gonna be the Montreal Expos, and your brother's like, I'm gonna be the NL All-Stars. Like,
right,
come on, man.
Right. And not just that, the NL All-Stars of like, all of
the all-time ones, the all-time NL All-Stars.
You got Babe Ruth? I got Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, you got Nolan Ryan on the mound. But so this is an interesting Sweet 16 matchup. South Park versus Saturday Night Live.
Sweating about that one?
I love Saturday Night Live, but I love South Park more.
I know, but are you sweating about how strong Saturday Night Live has performed?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll say this. Take any two SNL cast members, put them up against Matt and Trey. Vote Matt and Trey.
Okay. That's
going with Matt and Trey.
That's
fair They're like a tag team. Like you can't just take Stone Cold and Triple H and make them a tag team. No. The Usos got that chemistry.
Yeah.
Matt and Trey, they got that chemistry. They know the roles. So last couple matchups here. This one made me really, really sad. So sad. So the first show is Always Sunny. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Got by Glee in the first round, no problem. So here's Always Sunny. Mac, Dennis, Frank, Charlie, D. I didn't miss anyone, did I?
No, you got them all. I was going to start doing eggs, bacon, like that blooper.
Yes. What's worse than having no dads? Having a dad. And it faced off against what should have been Knoxville, Bam, Steve-O, Danger Aaron, Dave England, Chris Pontius, but it wasn't because Jackass lost to Impractical Jokers in the first round. And I love Impractical Jokers. And I love Impractical Jokers even more because A, they're really big wrestling fans, and B, Sal from Impractical Jokers is a really good comic. And their show is really, really funny. So I'm not taking anything from it. It won fair and square. I almost used my veto because I love Jackass so much. But what's done is done. Impractical Jokers has been on the air much longer than Jackass.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, even including not including the movies, but just as a series. I think Jackass is only 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Impractical Jokers has been around for over a decade now.
Pretty close, yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, for sure.
Crazy. True TV should just be known as Impractical Jokers TV because it's all it's on. But my vote.
Over here.
Yeah, my vote would be Always Sunny.
Same.
Yeah.
Always Sunny is. Man, I could debate it as like what I think is the best comedy period. I think it's so good and so funny. Always toes that line, pushes the envelope, and the characters and performances are fantastic.
Yeah.
Who moved on?
Always Sunny.
Woo! Always Sunny.
Always Sunny in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific favorite episodes of It's Always Sunny?
Oh man, I'm trying to think right now, but my stomach is going crazy and I'm really distracted. Let's do a video on that. Let's do a separate Always Sunny episode.
Cool.
Video.
I love that.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Moving on along. Matt's got a shit. We got Family Guy versus The Simpsons. Battle of the Animated Shows. I hate to say it. I think Simpsons is more groundbreaking and it's more classic show. Family Guy makes me laugh more.
Oh, same here.
I'd probably go Family Guy. And we could do separate episodes on each of these.
Sure.
I think a top 5 episodes, or what would be funny, which is what we are going to do this, top 5 cutaways in Family Guy history.
Yeah.
They do this little 10 to 30 second little.
Yeah. So Simpsons, I've seen a lot of episodes, but of course there's so many episodes of The Simpsons. But to me, there's not that many memorable episodes that I can think of oh, for sure I know all of these things happened. Maybe because there's so much that happened. Maybe I just didn't pay attention as much. But I can tell you specific Family Guy episodes and know this was the A story and there was this weird B story that was Stewie and Brian doing funny stuff. I can do the same for Futurama. Simpsons, I don't know. Sometimes it meanders. I don't know. But yeah, I laugh out loud more at Family Guy. I would go Family Guy, but I recognize the Simpsons' importance.
Yeah. And Simpsons did win. So we got the last TV show in our Sweet 16. We got some good matchups here.
Yeah.
So starting from the bottom, working our way back up.
2 animated shows.
Always Sunny versus Simpsons. Simpsons being one of the animated shows, obviously. And then we got the really weird South Park versus Saturday Night Live. That one scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
But, and then we move on up and we have just some really good...
The powerhouse here.
Powerhouse. Friends versus The Office. Chandler versus Michael Scott. Yeah. Joey versus Jim.
Yeah. Pam versus Rachel.
Yeah.
I feel like Pam and Rachel are similar vibes.
A little bit of similar vibes. And then Fresh Prince versus Seinfeld, right?
Bit of a surprise matchup there. I mean, Fresh Prince I expected, but still,
Fresh Prince versus Parks
I don't know who's going to win that one.
Wow.
At this point.